Not high school food, but
No.
Boston cream donuts are happiness.
It depends on it.
It does not depend.
For me, it does.
Well, I mean, if
Talking
they're
about
like
my
fairly, like,
All right, number 2, Montauk Smile, which for page 9 is coming down here towards the bottom of page 9 is where it's getting mentioned. What are some things that people have jotted down with smile? And again, it doesn't mean that you have, here's the big symbolic significance of the smile overall, but what would be some details that we have for smile? Austin, start with you, Jim, we'll be coming over.
I said it's like a quote-unquote fake smile.
Okay. So not that we're quoting it with fake smile from here.
So like, basically,
What would be like specific detail coming from the book that would lead us to it being a fake smile?
it was like coming into the cold marble room of a mausoleum.
Okay. Reminder, what's a mausoleum? It's a tomb. Okay, so yeah, if you're walking into a mausoleum, usually that's not going to be a place where there's going to be kind of a smile that's going on. Okay, when you get into that last paragraph, and it gets mentioned twice. One, you got the word show up, darkness. This is after he felt his smile slide away. And then it goes, he was not happy. If there was any confusion about the matter, what's the next sentence? He was not happy. So 2 times in a row, we're getting mentioned this, he was not happy. So if you have this smile happening, there's a good chance that it very well could be a fake smile, since you have he was not happy getting mentioned 2 times. Hence the little square that we'll have at the top for our cross-curricular math connection. So we had, and I think it was vocab list 7, the last one that we did. We had the term facade. Tyler, remember our definition for facade that we used with our quiz? Well, it can be a fake thing. It can also be like literally on a building. Like you would say, that's the front of the building. That's the facade. But yeah, we associate with the idea of being a front. That might not be the actual way that someone is feeling. He recognized this as the true state of affairs after he was not happy. He wore his happiness like a mask, and the girl had run off across the lawn with the mask, and there was no way of going back to knock on her door and ask for it back. So this idea of it being a facade, or you have this detail of it being like a mask, certainly would reinforce that, yep, it's probably fake, and this is going to reiterate he was not happy. What do we have going on here so far as figurative language? Like a mask, this is going to be a simile. All right, so we got the simile describing it to a mask, something you put on, something you wear, as opposed to it being something that he genuinely is. Keep in mind, this is a pretty stark contrast from, with only a few pages from the very beginning of the book, it was a pleasure to burn. Not the turn page 1. It was a special pleasure to see things eaten, to see things blackened and changed, with the brass nozzle in his fist, with this great python spitting its venomous kerosene upon the world, the blood pounded in his head. His hands were the hands of some amazing conductor playing all the symphonies of blazing and burning to bring down the tatters and charcoal ruins of history. He's going from enjoying all of this to one conversation with Clarice. He gets home. I'm not happy. If his smile is fake, why smile? Why smile? Okay. You said subconscious reaction, right? Yeah, reaction, instinct. And along those lines, like it could end up being muscle memory. Like, hey, I'm supposed to smile. Okay. Hi, Gia. How you doing today? Good. Hey, Tyler. How are you? Pretty good. I'm Madison. How are you? Hi, Keith. How are you? Hi, Jason. How you doing? Hi, Betsy. How's today going?
No, not too bad.
You alright?
Yeah.
You good?
Yeah.
Sure? Positive?
Yeah, kind of smell.
Safety swear?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Promises.
We're doing pleasantries. You know, in theory, we're being polite, asking how we're doing and whatnot. And not that it's the same thing necessarily as wearing a fake smile, but if someone asks you, how are you doing? Yeah, you pretty much have that subconscious reaction, that instinct to say, pretty good, not bad. How's that? All right. I hope you wake up. But if you ask, how are you doing today? Honestly, not doing too well. Some people might not even notice that you say that. All right, that's good. Take care. See you later. It's just the reaction that would sort of kind of happen with it. So it certainly could be to keep others happy. It could kind of be that reaction. For the most part, Tyler, listen up. For the most part, Millie would probably be the other that he would want to be keeping happy. Millie says everything, does everything that would imply that she is happy to other people. But certainly as we get into her emergency, we can know that there are some underlying issues that would be going on. But most of the time, yeah, how you doing? I'm good. All right, take care. We'll see you later. Where you don't expect someone to say something else, and unfortunately, you would hope this wouldn't happen, but sometimes you could, in some kind of pleasantry like that, go, how's everything going? Not good. All right, well, take care. We'll see you later. That they may not even notice that kind of happens. So, that facade, yeah, it could certainly be a little bit of an instinct or reaction that would be happening. But it melts away, that idea of muscle reaction. There's some underlying maybe thoughts that are starting to happen for him. This is certainly, though, a big thing to understand that no, he does not seem to be content, at least at that point. Millie's emergency, we already kind of did touch base on before, so we don't have to go into extreme detail about it. But any aspects about her emergency that we do find to be, pretty significant, important that we want to reiterate. Okay. It doesn't seem to be a one-time incident. So, and this could be both for Millie, and then also based on the workers who come over, that are to help her, that this is also not isolated to just Millie. How many do they have? Usually they say a night? Yeah, 9 or 10 a night. Madison, you can slip right back there. Do you have notes to read on it? You can just flip it over when you're done. What don't we know about her emergency? What's the cause? I'm sorry? Well, no, we know, like medically, we know that yes, you're right, it's sleeping pills. But what is it that causes her to take that step? That's the part that we don't really know. We can certainly make assumptions or implications that that maybe feels isolated or whatnot, but everything that she does certainly seems to be revolving around that family, which is an important thing to kind of keep in mind. Family is what she kind of looks at as being the TV. I don't know if you would go, her and Guy are a family, even though they're a married couple. But what is that root cause? That part we don't know. She, very well may not exactly even know what kind of caused it to happen. But it does seem to be something that comes up multiple times, not only for her, but other people, certainly kind of throughout that society. So there certainly are some underlying issues where hey, Guy is not happy. Clearly, that would mean other folks are not going to be happy either with what's going on or feeling some kind of can't even say anything right. Satisfaction with the way that things are going. Clarice and family? What's that mean? All right. Okay, so there is like actual, legitimate, genuine, I'll stop at 3, communication. And she kind of even mentions it. Where do they sit and talk? A counter argument. So if I refute, I'm going to counter. What's the question? So refute, like counter argue. Dismissed. Kind of probably be the best word to use for it. Where do they sit and talk? Okay, so yeah, and then the big thing with the front porch is, and kind of combining with, what was happening with the pedestrian from before, out in the open. Which is going to make them different. Could argue in some ways outcast, kind of comparative to other people. But there's actual communication that is going to take place. Compared to the other houses you drive by, you're not going to see the lights because the TVs are going on. You're going to have lights, all that kind of stuff, front porch. What are some details? Doesn't have to be about communication, but what are some details that we know about the family in general? And this can be beyond, the first part that they're getting mentioned, just to kind of tie some loose ends together.
You can tell the laws were strict from Clarice mentioning her uncle.
Okay.
Because she did say that he was just walking on the street one time and then he got arrested.
Similar again to what we were kind of dealing with the pedestrian. So, strict laws for, I'll put it in quotation marks, unusual behavior. What else? Whether it be family or for her. Things that are just believed because you're supposed to believe it. Mr. Kane is great. Could be an example of dog. Believe that. It was a movie too with Matt Damon years ago. What were you talking about? Dogma. Okay. Now he's taking a quiz. He takes EHS argumentation and like gave me quizzes that are taking there. So next time. We'll see you in a while. What else about her? Or family? Where have they lived? Geographic. Used to live in Chicago. What are some things that she likes? Okay. Oh, yeah. She mentions listening to people on the subway, or it's one of those few things that she'll like to do, kind of hear and listen in on conversations. Not meaning that she's eavesdropping to get into their business and whatnot, but, actually just kind of listening to people. So, listening to people. Mentioned specifically on the subway. Thinking of conversations that her and Guy have. And not necessarily her going, this is what I like, but things that she will say or kind of do when they are having conversation. Mentions how water tastes, rainwater, natural, pure water. What does she say about dandelions? They show if you're in love, so you rub the dandelion. She'll take leaves. If you take leaves and you break them up and you smell them, it smells just like cinnamon. So you can have that on your bagel. Take leaves, put those things on. So rainwater, dandelions, leaves, all those things. She certainly seems to be someone who is more either loves nature or at least notices nature. what is kind of happening, and not that this is a big thing that that Bradbury is looking at or focusing on, but there is a definite divide, a distinction, a separation that is taking place between people and nature. Certainly, the main source of that is going to be TVs, within the course of the book. That's probably a divide that kind of happens within our own world too. If you're in the car, assuming you are not driving, what are you doing when you're in the car? And let's say you're going to be in the car for a little while, so you're going minimum hour to like 2 hours. I heard a whole lot of stuff at one time. Hayden, what are you doing? Looking out the window? What are you doing? Looking at phone? Sleeping? Listening to music? The same thing that everyone else is, or earbud music? Okay, earbuds? Talking? Two other people in the car? Okay. Listen to music. Tyler, what are you doing on the phone? Anything specific or just kind of whatever? Certainly some folks with phone will have what apps that could be used. Could be GPS, could be games, could be social media, could be movies, Netflix, Disney Plus, downloading things, kind of watching there. Hayden said looking out the window. If this was 40, 50 years ago, besides talking to people or maybe listening to music, via the radio, you didn't have too many options other than looking out the window. When you were younger, what would be games that you would play in the car?
Punch Buggy.
Not on phone. Punch Buggy.
How many views on the wall, something like that.
Well, you could do. You had alphabet game. Some people would be looking for certain snakes. I hate I Spy. After like 3 times, that one drives me crazy. Did you ever play Cows and Cemeteries?
No, what's that? That's so scary.
Hayden's on the right side of the seat. I'm on the left side. Looking out your window, you count your cows, and you have to physically go. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then when you pass the cemetery, all your cows die. So whoever has the most cows by the time you get to the end of the road trip, that's the.
But what if there's no cows in the window? What if there's no cemetery?
That was a bad choice of games to
What if
have.
there's no cemetery?
Well, then you want to sit on that side because you're going to keep your cows.
I'm saying, what if there's no cemetery in general?
Then you better keep up with your cow counting so that you know who's got the winner. So, she's someone who is loving nature, notices nature, kind of aware of those things. She's not someone who's going to be watching Netflix, who's going to be listening to music, or who's going to be playing Angry Birds, on the phone, or good old Flappy Bird when you were like 4 years old.
I can't believe they deleted it.
You can play the Dave and Buster's. It's still there.
Really?
Yeah. If you want to spend your 6.8 ticket tokens, points, or whatnot on here. Now, notice here, one of the things that the Gia mentioned was that she likes rainwater, and mentioned kind of the taste of it, pages 19 to 21. Symbolism of water. And if you take psychology, sociology, these are things that will kind of get mentioned even when it comes to interpretation of dreams, like water can play an important part in those things. And when we say, and I'll get to your answer, when we say symbolism of water, it doesn't necessarily mean something that's directly getting referenced within the course of the book. It could be things that are more like a universal symbol that kind of happens.
I feel like, just going along with the book is, you can't start a fire with water.
Okay. So you have fire, water. There's certainly going to be opposition of those two. What does water do? It puts the fire out. If it's a rainy week and you go into North Park where the Smokey the Bear sign is, the chance of fire or issues like that are very low. If it's dry, if it's arid, situations that Australia's been dealing with for the last several weeks and months at this point, there's not the water there that's going to kind of put the fire out. So, water, fire, kind of natural enemies. And certainly with it being Fahrenheit 451, fire is going to be a big part of the book. Not worried about religious viewpoints or anything with this question, but what is I don't want to say event to happen for a baby with water. Could have a baptism. Okay? You take a look at, and really, you take a look at any major religion, water tends to play an important part in it. With water, and with water, and a baptism would kind of be an example of this. You can say that it is a cleansing. You could also, again, from religious viewpoints, people will look at a baptism or water as being an indicator of I didn't hear what you said. Rebirth. What do you have in Montauk? We have a fireman. We have a person, and not that this is the beginning point for it, because it's 19 to 21. It's a little bit later into part one. But you have a fireman who you have a change in viewpoint. You have a cleansing or a washing that is kind of taking place of him, where you have a washing away of older viewpoints, of older thoughts and ideologies, and you kind of have the beginning of a new life for him in some ways. Water is traditionally looked at as being life. You need water to survive. Whether it's living by water, whether it's having water in your body. I mean, most of your body, I forget what the percentage is, around somewhere between 70 and 80, 75 to 80% water. So that is who we are. That's what makes us up. So you kind of have this new beginning, this new life that is taking place with it. Rainwater, that rain aspect, it is natural. It is the real thing, as opposed to something that is being given and is something that is being broadcasted that you are supposed to believe. Really, a stark contrast to the rainwater would kind of be like the history that we have here of the fireman that is mentioned on page 32, because whereas this is natural, authentic, here with the history of the fireman, we start to get things that are a little bit different happening. Still with water?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, according to the book, not just a universal thing, whenever Montauk and Clarice actually meet up with each other, the rain starts to fade away.
Mm-hmm.
I took that as Clarice making Montauk happy, because earlier he mentioned that he was not happy. So it's like one of the only things that keeps Montauk somewhat happy.
And if Snoopy, Charlie Brown cartoons, sometimes you'll have instances where Charlie Brown's walking and the rain cloud only kind of is following him, so that he could be kind of unhappy, upset. And if you have that clearing out by which we associate with the water going away, the rain going away, now something happens. She's someone who actually kind of brings happiness to him, gives him a new way of looking at things. Yeah. And that's going to be a stark contrast to what's kind of happening every time that he seems to be with at least Millie at this point. When did Millie and Montauk meet? I have no idea. I mean, it's been like 10 years ago. Where did we meet? I have absolutely no idea. And not that you're going to remember every single little detail about every person you ever interact with, but you would think you would remember when you meet best friend, when you meet spouse, when you meet whatever. If it's someone really important to you, you would think you would remember that moment. It would seem that 10 years from now, if you ask God, when did you meet Clarice, that he would have an answer that he would seem to know because of how important she has become to him just within that part. According to page 32, what is the history of firemen? What does 32 tell us? So, established in 1790 to burn English-influenced books in the colonies. And then it mentions Benjamin Franklin. Let's say that you do not have all of the history books memorized. Tyler, why would we know that this is incorrect if it's going that the firemen were established, fire departments established 1790 in the colonies to burn the British influenced books? Putting you on the spot. And you can say, I don't know. Okay. any way, any reason in which you would know, without knowing the whole history of firemen, that this is false? Want to try to go with from what we have in the brain. If you have to go in the internet, that's fine. Keith? Declaration of Independence is 1776. So in 1790, we have 1776, we already have the establishment of the United States of America. We know this, okay? And we have history textbooks, or you watch National Treasure and there's a treasure map on the back of the Declaration of Independence and the Legion Gold and all that stuff. Absolutely. So we know that to be the case.
What does it say? Colonies, what, Franklin?
Benjamin Franklin's the first fireman. So in the book, established 1790, to burn English-influenced books in the colonies, first fireman, Benjamin Franklin. The rules: answer the alarm quickly, start the fire swiftly, burn everything, report back to the firehouse immediately, and alert for other alarms. So we know that this is going to be, essentially in today's terminology, we would go fake news. We would go, this is fake news because we know that is not accurate so far as a date. As Keith said, the United States was already established as a country at that point. Ben Franklin does start the first formal fire department, and it is when you have the colonies going on. It's in Massachusetts. It's not in, well, it doesn't mention where exactly in here, but he starts it in Massachusetts. I forget the date off the top of my head. I want to say it's the 1750s. So there is some truth to it, but there has also been some strong manipulation that is taking place. Hayden, you said, how would you find out the news? How would you find out the information? Well, you said you would look on, I could look on the internet to kind of find out. And not that Bradbury is imagining an internet being available, but you don't have any way to disprove this, so you have to assume that it is therefore accepted. That would be like dogma that Maddie was asking about. If you dogmatically believe it because you have no other possibility, and that's what you're supposed to believe, that's going to be your example of dogma.
Could that also kind of just freedom of speech?
Sure. I mean, if the Declaration of Independence never occurred, and freedom of speech is part of our Bill of Rights that are taking place, so it's a separate document. But if it has not become like that established country, those ideals that we associate with it, would be null and void. Now, Zach, this date will always be ingrained in your head. Because the French Revolution's going on at that point, so. You watched all those Robespierre videos and stuff like that, you and Madison, you'll remember those things forever. At least you better. That's what you're supposed to do.
Kind of scary, dude. Is this still like teachers could still punish you for a rule or something? I don't know, dude.
What is an indicator of our freedom? What is an indicator of our freedom? What is a symbol of our freedom that we associate with the United States of America at Ellis Island in New York? Statue of Liberty. Remember, we kind of mentioned this a little bit with the burning of the woman before. Common phrase during Revolutionary War era. Give me liberty or give me death. I don't.
It's like life, liberty, and
Okay. Close to Pursuit of Happiness, but tweaked a little bit with it. Give me liberty or give me death. Burning of the woman, mentioning that she's the one with the match. She's the one that decides to go with it. So she dies. If you die for a cause, if you die for a belief, you are then a martyr. So, with pages 34 to 38, the symbolism, the illusion that we have going on, and Beatty talks about this also. When he's meeting up with Guy at his house, So far as the allusion that is taking place, this is an allusion to England. England in 1555, you have two bishops. One is Ridley and one is Latimer. Bishops Ridley and Latimer, Latimer, are burned at the stake. So they are lit on fire. That is their death. French Revolution, you think of guillotine. For England in the 15, 16, 1700s, it wasn't uncommon that you would be burned at the stake. What you have going on is you have a split in the monarchy in England, you have a split in the church, and these two bishops refuse to acknowledge who is claiming to be the Queen of England at the time. So they are burned alive for their beliefs. What is she doing? She is going to be burned alive for her beliefs. Give me death, because I am not going to be in a place like this that's not going to allow those books to take place. But you have a female, you have holding essentially kind of like a torch, holding her books. She is basically going to be that kind of symbol for give me liberty, or ultimately I'm going to go be a martyr, give me death. How do you know that she's a successful martyr? And not because she dies. But she is a successful martyr because God cannot get her out of his mind. That is something that certainly resonates with him, that he cannot get to escape. And Millie doesn't want to hear anything about it. She deserved it because she had books. But that's how you know that ultimately ends up being successful, because there is a purpose, there is a cause, there is an effect that happens because of her death. Is that for you? Something? I'm sorry. Oh, for Bradbury? Yeah. No, and the reason I would say for sure he's going to. What do you mean, like with the Statue of Liberty part? For the Statue of Liberty part, you're not 100% sure. We know for absolute cause, and hold on, take seats. We still got a couple minutes. We know for sure that he wants this to be referenced because he does have Beatty, make this allusion, this reference to, Latimer, Ridley, and she quotes the same kind of line. Because of the fact that she would be holding the book, she would be holding the torch, I think, he would be purposely going with Statue of Liberty. There's always going to be the argument, and I completely understand it, well, how do you know what the author's intending and all that kind of stuff? Keep in mind, if you're an expert in that field, so far as writing or painting or anything with athletics, you're going to do something naturally. You just have better tools to use. So I think, he's going to kind of go back to that idea. Number 8. I want to talk about 8 here real quick. Seashell radios. What would be our equivalent for seashell radios in 2020? AirPods. AirPods, earbuds, anything along those lines. So, not again that Bradbury is trying to predict those things, but the part for some that can kind of become a little frightening in some ways or ironic is there certainly does appear to be some kind of similarity between what we got in 2020 and he's writing about here in 1953. That does not mean that we're going to have a give me liberty, give me death moment here where one of us is going to hold a match and light ourselves on fire to protect books. But some of those things that he is fearful of, you certainly can't argue that is happening. One of the things that he's really fearful of, and it gets mentioned more in parts 2 and 3 of the reading, is going to be world conflict, nuclear war, bombs. As you read part 2, there'll be things where you hear about bombers going and flying overhead that he hears. That's certainly an element that he's very concerned about, and that's an element that people are certainly still kind of concerned about. Vocab quiz tomorrow. Look over those terms, and make sure you have more solutions.